Everyone tells you the exact same thing. When the water is cold, you have to fish slow. But what if I told you that moving your bait like a frozen snail is the exact reason you are not catching giant early spring pike? Welcome back. Today, we are talking about pre-spawn pike fishing in cold water, and we are going to completely destroy one of the oldest rules in the book. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will realize why that classic slow retrieve is actually ruining your chances of landing a monster. I am going to reveal the massive mistake almost everyone makes when the water temperature drops, and show you why fishing fast is the ultimate secret weapon for aggressive springfish. Let me ask you right now, and be honest in the comments below. Do you strictly slow down when the water is cold, or do you still burn your baits? Let us argue about it down there, because I guarantee what you are about to hear will change your mind. This topic is absolutely crucial for anyone who wants to catch big fish right after the ice melts. For generations, fishermen have passed down the exact same advice. Grandpa said it. The old magazines said it. The guys at the local bait shop swear by it. Cold water equals a slow metabolism, which means the fish are sleepy, so you must fish painfully slow. It sounds logical, right? Because of this deeply ingrained belief, millions of anglers hit the water every spring and do the exact same thing they have done for decades. They cast out a bait, let it sink to the bottom, and barely turn the handle. They wait. They pause. They freeze their fingers off trying to coax a seemingly dormant fish into biting. They do this year after year, accepting that early spring fishing is just naturally tough and slow. But the reality is, they are missing out on the most aggressive, explosive bite of the entire year because they are stuck in a winter mindset. The pre-spawn period is a narrow window, and if you are wasting it by creeping your lure, you are leaving the biggest fish in the lake untouched. Picture this. It is early spring. The air is so cold you can see your breath. You are standing on the bank or sitting in your boat shivering. Your hands are freezing. You make a long cast out into the chilly water. And what do? You start reeling in slowly. So slowly it feels like time has stopped. Because that is what everyone told you to do, right? Grandpa said cold water means cold, sleepy fish. Every magazine you read said you have to slow down. You drag your bait across the bottom. You pause for 10 seconds. You barely turn the handle. You are convinced that if you move that lure even a tiny bit faster, the fish will not chase it. But let me tell you something. As you are creeping that lure along the bottom, a massive pre-spawn pike is watching it. She is not sleeping. She is hungry. She is angry. And she is looking for a real meal, not a sluggish piece of plastic that does not even look alive. You are fishing the memory of winter, but the fish is already living in the reality of spring. The truth is, that slow retrieve is exactly why she turns away and swims back into the weeds. You are boring her to death. Let us talk about what is actually happening under the surface right now. We tend to think of fish as simple creatures that just freeze up when the water is cold. But a pre-spawn pike is a completely different animal. Nature is telling her that she is about to go through the most physically demanding process of her entire year. Spawning takes a massive amount of energy. To get ready for that, she needs calories. Lots of them. She is not sitting in the mud feeling sorry for herself because the water is 38 degrees. She is actively hunting. Her instinct tells her to pack on weight fast. This means she is highly aggressive. When you throw a bait out there and barely move it, it does not trigger that primal hunting instinct. She wants a high-value target, something that looks like it is trying to escape. A slow-moving bait looks like sick prey, sure, but a fast-moving bait triggers a reaction. It forces her to make a split-second decision. Eat or miss the meal. In the animal kingdom, movement equals life. If you want to catch the biggest, meanest fish in the lake right now, you need to match her aggressive mood with an aggressive presentation. Forget the sleepy winter mindset. Have you ever walked past a sleeping dog and suddenly stomped your foot? What happens? The dog snaps awake and reacts instantly. That is exactly what a reaction strike is in the fishing world. In early spring, you are not always trying to convince a pike to sit down for a polite dinner. You are trying to trigger an absolute explosion of reflex. When you fish slow, you give the fish too much time to think. She swims up to your lure. She looks at the paint job. She notices the hooks. She feels the unnatural vibration of your fishing line in the water. You gave her 5 seconds to inspect the bait, and she used every single one of those seconds to realize it is a fake. Now imagine you burn that same lure right past her face. She has zero time to think. Her brain does not say, "Is that plastic?" Her brain says, "Food is getting away, kill it now." That fast retrieve takes away the fish's ability to be cautious. It forces a pure violent reaction. This is the biggest secret that the old school guys miss. They think cold water means you have to coax the fish into eating. But in reality, cold water pre-spawn fishing is all about forcing the fish to react before they even know what happened. Think about the last time you were out on the water in early spring. You are casting a big swim bait. You are doing the slow, steady retrieve because you think you have to. Suddenly, you see a massive shadow following your bait right up to the side of the boat. Your heart jumps into your throat. It is a giant pike, easily over 20 pounds. She is just coasting behind your lure, inches away. You panic. What do? You stop reeling. You pause, thinking she will eat it on the drop. But what does she actually do? She flares her gills, turns around, and slowly sinks back into the dark water. You just lost the fish of a lifetime. Why? Because you stopped. In nature, prey does not stop and wait to be eaten when a predator is chasing it. A real bait fish would panic and swim for its life. By slowing down or stopping, you broke the illusion. You told that giant pike that your lure is not real. If you had sped up your retrieve instead of slowing down, if you had burned that bait away from her, her instincts would have taken over. She would have surged forward and crushed it. Slowing down lost you the fish. Speeding up would have put her in your landing net. Let us tackle the elephant in the room, the water temperature gauge on your fish finder. We all stare at it like it is some kind of magic oracle. You see the screen reading 39 degrees, and your brain immediately tells your hands to slow down. You have been brainwashed to believe that anything under 50 degrees means you have to crawl your bait. But here is the hard truth. Water temperature is just a number. It does not dictate exactly how a fish will behave every single day. Early spring pike are built for cold water. They thrive in it. While bass might be shivering and hiding under a log, pike are the undisputed kings of the cold. They are apex predators designed to hunt in these exact conditions. When the ice melts, they do not need the water to hit 60 degrees to wake up. They are already awake. Stop letting the number on your electronics dictate your fishing style. If you let a cold temperature reading force you into a slow, boring retrieve, you are playing right into the hands of a myth. You need to fish the mood of the fish, not the temperature of the water. And right now, the mood of a pre-spawn pike is downright violent. Now, if you are going to commit to fishing fast in cold water, you cannot just use any old lure. You need baits that are built for speed and chaos. A lot of guys reach for a lightweight jig, or a delicate finesse plastic. That is a mistake. When you try to reel a light bait fast, it rolls over. It loses its action. It just looks like a piece of garbage spinning through the water. You need heavy artillery. Think big, heavy swim baits with massive paddle tails. Think heavy spoons that flash aggressively when you burn them through the water column. You want a lure that moves a ton of water. When that big pike is sitting in the weeds, she might not see your bait right away, but she will feel it. Her lateral line is highly sensitive to water displacement. A large, heavy swim bait moving at a fast clip sends out a thumping vibration that screams, "Big meal swimming away." You want baits that stay down in the strike zone even when you are turning the handle quickly. Do not be afraid to throw a lure that weighs 2 or 3 ounces. Big baits fished fast weed out the small annoying fish and call in the absolute monsters that are looking to pack on weight before they spawn. Let us talk about one of the most misunderstood lures in the early spring arsenal, the jerkbait. Most fishermen tie on a jerkbait in the cold, give it a soft little twitch, and then wait for 10 to 15 seconds. They just let it sit there. And sure, sometimes a fish will eat it on the pause. But remember what we are talking about today. We are hunting aggressive pre-spawn predators. Instead of those gentle, polite twitches, I want you to try something totally different. I want you to rip that bait. Give it hard, violent snaps of the rod tip. Make that lure dart erratically from side to side like a bait fish that has lost its mind. And cut your pause time in half. Rip, rip, brief pause, rip again. You want to create a scene of absolute panic underwater. When you snap that rod hard, the lure flashes brightly and moves a lot of water. It triggers that reactionary instinct we talked about. A pike might be sitting 10 feet away, but when she sees that sudden aggressive movement, She cannot help herself. She will cross the distance in a fraction of a second to crush the bait. Stop babying your jerkbaits. Fish them with anger. Fish them fast. Watch what happens. Here is another massive advantage to fishing fast in the spring. Water clarity. In a lot of lakes and rivers, early spring means crystal clear water. The algae has not bloomed yet. The water is freezing, but you can see the bottom in 15 feet of water. This is a huge problem if you are fishing slow. In clear water, a fish has incredible vision. If you slowly drag a lure past her, she can see every single detail. She sees the split rings. She sees the wire leader. She sees your braided line. She has all the time in the world to find a flaw in your presentation. But when you crank up the speed, you take away that visual advantage. A fast-moving bait is a blur. It is just a flash of color and a strong vibration. By moving the lure quickly, you do not give her the time to study the details. She only sees the profile and the escape path. Speed is your best camouflage in clear water. It hides your mistakes. It hides your heavy leader. If you are struggling to get bites in super clear spring water, your first move should never be to slow down and downsize. Your first move should be to speed up and force a split-second reaction before the fish figures out it is a trap. There is something else you need to understand about pre-spawn pike. They do not always act alone. In early spring, big females and several smaller males often group up near the shallow spawning bays. They are concentrated in specific areas. When you have multiple predators in the same zone, competition becomes a huge factor. This is where fishing fast absolutely destroys the slow method. If you fish a slow bait, one fish might slowly follow it, inspect it, and eventually turn away. But when you burn a bait through a group of fish, you trigger their competitive instinct. If one pike sees another pike moving toward the lure, she will charge forward and strike it just so the other fish cannot have it. It is pure underwater jealousy. Speed amplifies this competition. A fast-moving lure looks like a fleeing baitfish, and the panic of the chase sets off a chain reaction among the group. Suddenly, you do not just have one fish looking at your lure. You have 2 or 3 fish actively fighting to kill it first. You can never create that kind of chaotic, competitive feeding frenzy by dragging a piece of rubber slowly across the bottom. You have to move it to make them fight for it. Let us look at the pure math of fishing. Early spring fishing is often a game of location. The fish are moving from deep wintering holes to shallow spawning flats. They might be holding on a specific transition line, a subtle drop-off, or a tiny patch of dead weeds. If you do not know exactly where they are, you have to find them. Now imagine you are fishing at a snail pace. You cast out, let it sink, and slowly creep the bait back. One cast takes you 3 minutes. In an hour, you have only covered a tiny stretch of water. If the fish are not there, you just wasted an hour of your life. Now imagine you are fishing fast. You are casting, burning the bait back, and casting again. You are covering 3 times as much water in the same amount of time. You are putting your lure in front of 3 times as many fish. In the cold water pre-spawn period, finding the active fish is 90% of the battle. You cannot afford to waste time slow rolling a bait in dead water. Speed allows you to search effectively. You become a human fish finder. You cover the flats, you cover the drop-offs, and you keep moving until you find the aggressive pack. Speed equals efficiency. If there is one thing you must pay attention to in the early spring, it is the sun. The weather can change everything in a matter of hours. You might start your morning with frost on your rod guides. The water is freezing, and maybe the bite is a little tough. But then the sun comes up. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun has been beating down on the shallow bays for hours. The water temperature in those shallows might jump by just 2 or 3 degrees. To a human, that is nothing. To a pre-spawn pike, it is a massive dinner bell. That tiny temperature increase shifts their metabolism into overdrive. They move up into the skinny water to soak up the heat and hunt. This is the absolute worst time to fish slow. They are fired up and ready to kill. You need to be burning spinnerbaits, ripping jerkbaits, and swimming big plastics aggressively through those warming shallows. If you stick to your slow morning retrieve when the afternoon sun hits, you are missing the best bite of the day. The fish have changed their mood, and you must change your speed to match them. Capitalize on that afternoon warming trend by fishing faster and harder than you did all morning. You cannot fish fast effectively if your gear is fighting against you. A lot of anglers use older reels with slow gear ratios, maybe a 5-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ratio. When you try to burn a big lure with a slow reel, you have to crank the handle incredibly fast. Your arm gets tired. You lose your rhythm. And worst of all, you cannot keep the line tight if a fish hits the bait and swims directly at the boat. If you are going to commit to the fast pre-spawn tactic, you need the right tools. You need a high-speed bait casting reel. An 8-to-1 or even a 9-to-1 gear ratio is perfect. With a high-speed reel, you can move the bait quickly with smooth, effortless turns of the handle. You have total control over the lure. More importantly, when a giant pike strikes a fast-moving bait, it is usually a violent collision. Sometimes they hit it so hard they knock slack into your line. A high-speed reel allows you to pick up that slack instantly and drive the hooks home. Do not bring a knife to a gunfight. Get yourself a fast reel so you can actually perform the high-speed techniques without wearing out your shoulder by noon. The right gear makes all the difference. Let us talk about what happens the exact second a fish bites. When you are dragging a bait slowly, you often feel a mushy, heavy sensation. You have time to reel down, feel the weight, and sweep the rod. It is a slow, methodical process, but when you are burning a lure, the strike is completely different. It is an absolute car crash. The fish is moving fast, your bait is moving fast, and the collision is explosive. You do not have time to think. You do not have time to ask your buddy if you have a bite. If you hesitate for even 1 second, she will spit the lure. You need heavy gear. I am talking about a heavy action rod with plenty of backbone. I am talking about strong braided line, at least 65 pounds test, and a heavy fluorocarbon or titanium leader. When that violent strike happens, you need to hit her back immediately and with serious power. There is no finesse here. The speed of the retrieve means the hook set has to be purely instinctual. You cross her eyes the second you feel the rod load up. The combination of your fast retrieve and a brutal hook set will drive those thick gauge hooks deep into her bony jaw. You have to fish with aggressive intent. The hardest part of this entire technique is not physical. It is mental. It is incredibly difficult to break a habit you have had for 20 years. Every time your fingers get numb from the cold wind, your brain screams at you to slow down. You make a cast, and you subconsciously start creeping the bait. You have to actively fight your own instincts. You have to remind yourself on every single cast, reel faster. Do not stop. Rip it harder. It feels wrong at first. It feels unnatural to burn a swim bait through 38-degree water. Your buddies in the boat will probably look at you like you are crazy. They will tell you to slow down. They will tell you the fish are dormant. You have to ignore them. You have to trust the biology of the pre-spawn fish. Keep telling yourself that she is hungry, she is aggressive, and she wants to react. Fishing is a mental game. If you do not believe in what you are doing, you will fall back into your old, unsuccessful habits. Force yourself to fish fast for 1 entire hour. Do not slow down, no matter what. Once you feel that first rod jarring strike from a 20-pounder, that mental block will disappear forever. You will be a believer. What happens when you get a strike, but the fish does not hook up? We call this a short strike. You feel a heavy bump, or maybe you see a flash behind the bait, but she misses the hooks. Most anglers do the exact same thing when this happens. On the very next cast, they throw back into the same spot and fish the lure much slower. They think, oh, she missed it because I was moving too fast. I need to slow down and give her a better chance to eat it. This is a massive mistake. She did not miss the bait because you were reeling too fast. She missed it because she was not fully committed. She took a half-hearted swipe at it. If you throw back in there and fish slower, she will get a really good look at the bait, realize it is fake, and ignore it completely. So what should you do? Speed it up even more. Throw back into that exact same spot and burn the lure faster than you did the first time. Make it look like that injured baitfish is desperately fleeing the scene in a total panic. Force her to commit fully this time. Speeding up turns a cautious short strike into a vicious, choking strike. Never reward a short strike with a slower retrieve. Make her work for it. Let us dive deeper into how fish hunt in cold, dark water. Vision is only one part of the equation. A pike's lateral line is her superpower. It is a sensory organ running down the side of her body that detects vibrations and water displacement. In early spring, the water is often choppy, cold, and sometimes muddy from melting snow and runoff. Visibility can be terrible. If you are fishing a small, subtle bait with a slow retrieve, it barely moves any water. It is basically invisible to her lateral line. She simply does not know it is there. But when you tie on a massive bait with a huge profile and reel it fast, you are pushing a wall of water ahead of the lure. You are creating a heavy, thumping vibration that echoes through the water column. She can track that vibration from 20 feet away, even if she cannot see a thing. The speed of the retrieve amplifies the water displacement. It sends out a frantic distress signal. It tells her that a large, panicking meal is nearby. By fishing fast with a big bait, you are directly targeting her most powerful sensory organ. You are not asking her to see the bait. You are forcing her to feel the bait. That is how you win in dirty spring water. When we talk about fishing fast and moving water, we cannot ignore the giant spinnerbait. A lot of guys think spinnerbaits are only for summer bass fishing. That is dead wrong. A heavy 1 ounce or larger spinnerbait with double willow blades is a lethal weapon for early spring pike. But again, the secret is speed. Do not slow roll it across the bottom like a sluggish crawler. You want to cast that big spinnerbait out, keep your rod tip high, and burn it just under the surface. You want those big metal blades flashing aggressively in the sunlight. You want them bulging the surface of the water, creating a massive wake. This technique is called burning a spinnerbait, and it is absolutely devastating on pre-spawn fish holding in shallow weed beds. The intense flash and the frantic vibration mimic a fleeing bait fish perfectly. And because a spinnerbait is practically weedless, you can rip it through last year's dead cabbage weeds at high speeds without getting snagged. When a giant female pike is sitting in 2 feet of water warming herself in the afternoon sun, a fast-moving spinnerbait waking right over her head is too much to resist. She will absolutely destroy it. Here is an advanced trick for fishing fast in the cold. It is all about deflection. Predators love an ambush point. They sit tight to rocks, submerged logs, or clumps of old weeds. If you bring your bait past them in a straight, uninterrupted line, they might just watch it go by. But if you are burning a bait, and suddenly it crashes into a rock, bounces off, and completely changes direction, that erratic movement is a massive trigger. It looks exactly like a bait fish that made a mistake and bumped into something while trying to run away. That sudden change in direction creates a moment of vulnerability. It forces the pike to strike instantly before the bait recovers. You cannot get this effect with a slow retrieve. If you are creeping a bait, it just softly touches the rock and slides over it. There is no violence. There is no sudden darting action. You need speed to create a dramatic deflection. I want you to intentionally crash your crankbaits into gravel. I want you to run your swimbaits directly into the stalks of dead weeds and rip them free. Use the structure to your advantage. The faster you hit the cover, the more erratic the deflection, and the more violently they will bite. Even when you are fishing at maximum speed, there will be times when a fish follows the bait all the way to the boat. It happens constantly with big pike. They are naturally curious and they love to track their prey over long distances. So, what do you do when your lure is 2 feet from the rod tip and there is a 40-inch monster right behind it? Most people freeze. They pull the bait out of the water. Do not do that. This is where the famous figure 8 technique comes in, but with a twist. Do not do a slow, lazy figure 8. Remember, we are triggering reactions. Keep the lure in the water, plunge your rod tip straight down, and execute a massive, high-speed figure 8 right at the side of the boat. Rip it through the turns, accelerate the bait on the straightaways, make that lure look like it is trapped against the boat and in absolute terror. The sudden burst of speed and sharp turns right at the edge of the boat will often push a following fish over the edge. She followed it because she was interested, but she will eat it in the figure 8 because you made it run away fast. Commit to the speed all the way to the very last second of every single cast. To sum it all up, changing your speed is the ultimate game changer for early spring pike. It is not about doing it for 10 minutes and then giving up because you did not catch a fish. It is about a complete shift in your mindset. You are leaving behind the old school rules that tell you cold water means slow fishing. You are embracing the chaotic, aggressive reality of the pre-spawn biology. You are using speed to trigger reaction strikes, cover massive amounts of water, and force the fish to make a decision. The next time you are out on the freezing water and you find yourself slowly turning the reel handle out of habit, stop. Take a deep breath, tighten your drag, Cast back out there and burn that lure back to the boat like it is running for its life. You might not catch 10 small fish this way. You might have periods where nothing happens. But when that massive strike comes, when your rod is almost ripped out of your freezing hands by a giant angry female pike, you will understand. You will know exactly why the old rules are meant to be broken. Speed kills in cold water. Trust the process, trust the aggressive nature of the fish, and never be afraid to fish fast. Let us bring it all together. The biggest takeaway today is that cold water does not automatically mean you are dealing with a passive, sleepy fish. The unexpected truth, the real turning point here, is that pre-spawn pike are literally hardwired for violence and speed. While everyone else on the lake is freezing their hands off trying to finesse a bite, you are going to be out there burning giant baits, triggering explosive reaction strikes, and forcing the fish to eat out of pure instinct. This completely flips the script on spring fishing. It takes away the waiting game and puts you on the offensive. You are no longer hoping a fish decides to eat. You are forcing her to react. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you rethink your early spring strategy, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps out. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the biggest, most aggressive strike you have ever had in freezing water, and what lure were you using? Drop your story in the comments below, and let us keep the debate going. Get out there, speed it up, and catch a monster.